What happens when a film has a bigger reputation than your actual memory of watching it? This is Dave's Movie Diary, where I revisit films I've watched throughout my life and look at them through the perspective of who I am now. Not just whether they still work, but what they reveal about the characters, the stories, and the person watching them years later. Today I'm revisiting 3 Days of the Condor, Sidney Pollack's 1975 conspiracy thriller, starring Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway, a film about CIA secrets, government power, and one man who suddenly finds himself hunted by the organisation he works for. So why did I come back to this film? 3 Days of the Condor is one of those films that's always seemed to exist in the background for me. It always had a reputation for me when I first heard about the film in the early 1980s as being one of the great 1970s conspiracy thrillers. And I actually became aware of it in a really odd way, because back in the early 80s, when I was 9 or 10, I was fully obsessed with cricket here in Australia. I used to buy religiously the ABC and Channel 9 tour guides, the cricket guides, and they'd have interviews in there. I think it might have been the Channel 9 ones. They had these quite extensive interviews with the Australian players and the overseas players, where they'd ask them dozens of questions like, what's your favourite food? What's your favourite holiday destination? All these things. Favourite movie star. And they asked these players in about 1982, what's your favourite movie? And I can remember seeing 3 Days of the Condor mentioned by several Australian cricketers as one of their favourite films. It was like 3 or 4 of them at least, far more than any other film. And being young and impressionable then, it stuck in my mind. And it was more than that. It was the title of the film. It's one of the best titles, I reckon, for a film that I've come across. Condor has that mysterious spy thriller feel. Feels like a code name, and it is. But it feels like a bird of prey. Don't quote me on that. My knowledge of birds isn't that great. And in more recent times, I came across the James Grady novel that the film was based on, which is 6 Days of the Condor. And I read that, and it's a solid read. It's a solid thriller. It's not going to win any awards for being a literary masterpiece, but it's a good 200-pager that has an interesting premise about the CIA, about internal power struggles, and a guy who discovers something that he shouldn't have. And the novel and the film, I think, really arrived at exactly the right time, because that mid-1970s, looking at it now, is really the peak period for conspiracy cinema, I think, because it's on the heels of Watergate, which really exploded in 1973. And then you had the Church Committee investigations into CIA activities, and a lot of growing public distrust of government institutions. Here in Australia, of course, we had the significant Whitlam sacking in 1975, when the Governor-General, Sir John Kerr, sacked Whitlam. And again, contrary to popular belief, I wasn't an adult then. I was about 3 years old, so I'll put that rumour to bed. But I can still see that this was the peak era for conspiracy, and that was reflected in the culture, in the artistic culture, when movies used to be the center of that culture. That period gave us lots of great films. Parallax View in 1974, the Warren Beatty film that I think was an Alan J. Pakula film that was really good, about an election convention. I think I've only seen that the once. Really want to see that again. The Conversation that came out the same year, the Coppola movie, that I'm a big fan of and have seen multiple times. 3 Days of the Condor, the film I'm talking about now. All the President's Men in '76, the granddaddy of all these, that really gets into Watergate. And there are a whole heap of other films around this period. Even Chinatown in '74 is uncovering a conspiracy. Conspiracy was the name of the game, and it was a time when audiences were really questioning whether the people in charge could ever be trusted. What's the film about? I probably should get onto that. Robert Redford, as I said, is the main star. He plays Joe Turner, a CIA researcher who works under the code name Condor. But he's not a traditional spy because he doesn't carry a gun and he doesn't go on missions. Instead, he works in this really hidden away small New York office called the American Literary Historical Society, where he literally reads books and analyzes information from around the world and seems to look for patterns that might reveal threats. It's really deliberately ordinary, and it's a bunch of intellectuals sitting around reading. Then one day, Turner leaves the office to get lunch. Great idea to leave when he did, because when he gets back, absolutely everyone inside's been murdered. We see this happening. It's quite a chilling few scenes, actually. These assassins just come in and mow them all down, including Turner's colleague, who's his girlfriend. Everyone's dead. And suddenly, Turner realizes that the information they'd been studying may have uncovered something very dangerous. So what does he do? Well, he does what he's trained to do. He contacts the CIA for help and recites, the information that he needs to. But instead of protecting him, he discovers that someone inside the CIA wants him eliminated. So the question then becomes, why would the CIA be killing its own people? The answer is that Turner's uncovered evidence of a hidden operation inside the CIA itself. It's like a Russian doll thing, a secret within a secret. So it's an organization operating outside the rules of the organization that it belongs to. And with no one left to trust, Turner goes on the run. So he's not a trained field agent. He's a bookworm. He does have some basic kind of tradecraft, but really for him, his strength has always been knowledge. Now he has to adapt. And he's also got to become more aggressive, more streetwise, more suspicious. And above all, he's got to be more willing to do things that he never imagined. It gets really interesting when the assassins are hot on his tail, and he's desperate to escape. So he forces a stranger, Kathy Hale, played by Faye Dunaway, to come and help him. Well, not to come and help him. He forces her into a car. They go back to her apartment and they're holed up there for a while as he reassesses and decides what to do next. So initially, obviously, she's terrified of him. She's quite a conservative person. She's a photographer, and she's terrified. Like I said, she believes he's dangerous. I mean, he's talking about a conspiracy. I don't know about you, but whenever I hear the word conspiracy voiced by someone, I start to think, well, is there, or are you trying to make yourself more important than you are, or are you losing your mind? All of the above. And I think that's Faye Dunaway's immediate response, even though this guy is Robert Redford, and who wouldn't trust Robert Redford? But anyway, as the situation develops, their relationship changes and they begin working together as Turner tries to uncover who's behind the killings and survive long enough to expose the truth. So look, ultimately, the film becomes a race between Turner and the people hunting him, including the mysterious assassin Jobert, played by Max von Sydow, who's a great actor. He's a professional killer who operates with absolute calm and precision, like he does in most of the films that he shows up in. Honestly, I have seen this film before, but I don't know when. I couldn't tell you. I always remembered the reputation more than the actual movie. Unlike those other films that I talked about, especially The Conversation or All the President's Men, those films are locked in with me for different reasons. All the President's Men, because it's based on the true story and it's a riveting watch. The performances in that film are out of this world. It's even when you know what happens, because it's such a well-publicized story, that film is elite. And The Conversation is totally different. It's one of the films that Francis Ford Coppola made that I think is underappreciated. I love that film. I've seen it, I don't know, 6 or 7 times, and I think it's very underrated. Along with some of his films from the early 80s, like Rumblefish. But anyway, I'm getting off the track now. But those two films for me stick in the memory banks much more than this film. And watching it now, I can understand why. There's nothing wrong with 3 Days of the Condor at all. It's well made, it's entertaining, it's an interesting story, it's got great actors in it. But it never, to me, pushes the envelope enough. It never reaches the level of darkness or paranoia that those other films do. And I never see the characters in this pushed to the limits of despair or having to really get pushed over the edge like they do in those other films. It's more of a thriller, and that's fine. But those other films were really deep explorations of either government power or the dangers of surveillance in terms of The Conversation. So that's why they've stayed with me. Sidney Pollack, like I said, he directed this film, and he's always been an interesting filmmaker to me because I know he made some great films, lots of great films actually, when I look at the list in front of me. But I know him more as an actor. And I know him especially from Eyes Wide Shut, when he plays a shadowy kind of a role in that. He's leading Tom Cruise along in many respects in that film, and hasn't that film become relevant lately? But also from Tootsie. But he's mainly known as a very accomplished director. I've got this list in front of me. They Shoot Horses, Don't They? From 1969. Jeremiah Johnson in 1972 with Redford again. This movie, Absence of Malice with Paul Newman in 1981. Tootsie, of course, he directed that as well. Out of Africa, which I've got not great memories of. I found that film to be not that interesting, but I was at the wrong age when I think I saw it not long after it came out, and I was definitely the wrong age to watch that one. Anyway, what he does here with this one for me is he maintains the suspense without making the film feel too complicated, and the plot does get a bit dense and a bit clever later in the film when Redford's on the run. There's lots of names and organisations and twists, and like I said, wheels within wheels within wheels. But he does manage to keep the focus on Turner's experience and the relationship between him and Faye Dunaway's character. It's a little bit like The Fugitive, I guess, where a fairly normal person's suddenly trapped in an impossible situation. But then again, this guy is part of the CIA, so it's just that he's in a really niche, bookwormy part of the CIA. On to Robert Redford. Look, I've never been Robert Redford's biggest fan as an actor. I do respect him. I think in terms of what he's done for the industry, with Sundance. That's a great achievement. Nothing wrong with him as an actor. He's a movie star, right? For me, he's more of a movie star than an actor, than a great actor. He's not Robert De Niro. I just think that his image maybe worked against him. He's too polished and too handsome for me. I always got the sense that in some of his films, he was trying to get a bit dirtier, trying to lose some of those boyish good looks, but it never really worked. He was always the hero, a bit too naturally heroic. But he had a great run, and he had a great run for me from 69 to 76, starting with Downhill Racer and Butch Cassidy, of course. The Candidate, The Sting. This film's good. And culminating with All the President's Men. And then he kind of tailed off and went more into directing with Ordinary People, of course. And what was that other one? The Milagro Beanfield War. And then in the 90s he came back again, but I don't know. I feel like even these roles in the early 70s are still built around that Redford persona. The intelligent, principled, good-looking hero who never strays too far from what you'd expect. But in saying all that, I do find this role interesting is he does get a bit more down and dirty in this. He kidnaps a woman. He threatens her. He threatens other people on the phone. He has to become a bit physical, and he has to stop being the intellectual observer and become someone who can survive. So I do think it's nearly the darkest role that he ever played. Not because the character of Turner is evil. He's just forced to cross a lot of lines that he hasn't, and Redford hasn't before. So that's what makes it interesting to me. Now, Faye Dunaway, though, to me, she's the real definition of a 1970s movie star. She's one of the earliest, I guess, actresses that I was aware of in that late 70s, early 80s era when I started looking at films on TV. And these were the sort of films that she was in that were around at the time. And she has a real movie star look about her. And you look at this run from Bonnie and Clyde in 67. I always forget about the Thomas Crown affair in 68, but her and McQueen, what a pairing. These pairings that she had, Bonnie and Clyde, her and Warren Beatty, Thomas Crown affair, her and McQueen, Towering Inferno, her and a bunch of people, including Paul Newman and McQueen again, Chinatown, Jack Nicholson, 3 Days of the Condor with Redford, Network with William Holden again, who was in Towering Inferno, but also Robert Duvall. She really, to me, completely defined that era in terms of actresses. And she's got this incredible combination of elegance. I always think elegance, classical, classy, but really intelligent, but tough, independent, always could match the male stars around her in most of those films when you think about it. For me, this one is, again, like Redford, though, maybe the odd one out. She's a photographer. She's sort of, we find out later in the film that she's in a relationship where she's kind of getting a bit dominated, and she gets pulled into this situation that she didn't ask for in this movie. But even though she's forced to submit, to me, she never feels weak. She keeps on challenging Turner and questioning him. And then even when she submits to him physically, it's on her terms. She agrees to that. I don't feel that it's ever forced. I never thought that she was doing that to survive. I thought she was doing that because she wanted to, and because she comes around to what Redford's talking about and just him as a man. And the chemistry between them works better than I expected, considering how unusual their relationship starts out. So, look, I am a fan of Faye Dunaway, which is interesting because I don't normally go for that look in films and in life. So it tells you something about her qualities as an actress, I think. I just want to touch on a couple of the other stars in this. Max von Sydow as Gerbert. To me, he brings credibility, like Gene Hackman, like other actors do. He brings credibility and integrity to films. He always seemed a lot older than he actually was, like a lot older. But he had such presence in films. Like I have seen most of his Ingmar Bergman films, The Seventh Seal, Wild Strawberries, lots of the ones, particularly in the late 50s through to the late 60s. He seemed to be in nearly all those Bergman films that are worth watching. Most people, though, know him from The Exorcist, and that was probably the first time I saw him in that just amazing role as the father who tries to who performs the exorcism. And maybe that's why, partly too, I think that he's really old, because he was playing a guy a lot older than him in that role. Hannah and Her Sisters he was in, heaps of other films. He just always brings it. And he's brilliant here because Gerbert is almost the opposite of Turner. And they've got this great scene in an elevator where Turner slowly realizes over the course of the elevator ride that Gerbert is the assassin. But Turner's learning how to survive, and Gerbert really knows the terrain well, and he's the hunter. He's calm, he's professional, he's precise. It's just another job to him. And the scenes between the two were probably some of the best moments in the film for me. Also, just want to mention Cliff Robertson as a face you can't trust, because that's what I think. He's perfectly cast, because he always has, to me, that executive quality to me, like a corporate-y kind of guy who seems polite and professional but might betray you at any moment. There's two other guys that come to mind for me. William Devane always had that really toothy kind of grin as well. And Robert Vaughn maybe is the best exponent of this for me. My dad and I always used to joke that whenever Robert Vaughn shows up, just wait for him to blackmail you or to backstab you. I don't know why, but he's always had that sense about him. And these guys were actors who could play powerful men with really questionable motives. So I thought Robertson was a really good choice playing this CIA controller role. So one of the most interesting parts of the film for me was watching Turner change. And his character in this reminded me, I think there's parallels of Anthony Hopkins' character in The Edge, where they're both really intelligent guys who haven't had to bring it in the real world or physically. And Turner in this one survives through knowledge. He's got a photographic memory. He remembers everything. He reads everything, analyzes information, but gradually learns who to trust and how to manipulate situations and how to get tough. And he learns how dangerous the world really is, just like Anthony Hopkins out there with Alec Baldwin in The Edge. And the intelligence keeps both of these men alive, ultimately. Look, lots of things worked for me about this film. I thought it's good material for Sidney Pollack to deal with. He doesn't really step outside his lane. All those films that I mentioned, they're really competently precise movies that don't go overboard in terms of being an auteur. It does work for me, Robert Redford stepping outside his usual persona, which frankly I had got a little bit used to. I don't want to say bored with, but just used to and a bit typecast. I did enjoy Faye Dunaway as well, playing a slightly different role than the Ice Queen or the alpha female. She's definitely in second place here. Max von Sydow, great as the assassin. I do love the 1970s paranoia, conspiracy atmosphere. I like those films that I talked about. And watching Turner grappling with the situation he finds himself in, like The Fugitive. We all enjoy that kind of thing. Things that didn't work as much. Yes, this is an entertaining film, but it doesn't. I don't understand why. I don't understand why those Aussie cricketers had such a strong opinion of the film. That's a weird thing to say, isn't it? But I don't understand the reputation this film has. I'm coming to it late in the piece, of course, and maybe it was a bigger deal back then, but I don't really get it. It's entertaining, yes, but it isn't memorable for me. Conversation, Parallax View, All the President's Men, others are much stronger films for me and much more memorable. This one feels lighter. It feels like, yes, the conspiracy is interesting. It just doesn't hit me. It doesn't emotionally hit me very deeply. It's more about the adventure of escaping than exploring the implications and what that really means. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say here. It just focuses on the outcomes of the conspiracy. It doesn't look at why did the conspiracy, where did it come from? This CIA within the CIA dynamic. What drove that? I'm more interested in those kind of questions, I think. So this film would have been absolutely a date film in 1975. It absolutely would have, because it's got Redford and Dunaway. Everyone's happy there, right? Something for everyone. And it's got romance. It does have romance. And it's got suspense. Very accessible film. Is it still a date film? Maybe. Maybe it is. You got two incredibly attractive leads, and you do have a story that moves pretty quickly. It's just over 100 minutes, I think. Doesn't overstay its welcome. It's kind of forgettable. Maybe it is a date film. Hangover film, I do think it is, because it's entertaining and not too demanding. Even though the plot does require some attention, you can still watch it comfortably and ease into your day. It's a watch alone as well, so it hits my trifecta. You can appreciate some of the performances in particular. Maybe I can put it this way. Maybe it's the first film you'd watch in a double header. Maybe it's not your marquee 8:30 watch. Maybe it's your 6 o'clock, 6:30 watch with dinner. I do think it's better than a lunchtime watch, early afternoon watch. I'll give it enough credit that it's a 6 o'clock, 6:30 watch. Whereas The Conversation, Parallax View, and All the President's Men are definitely 8:30. They are primetime watches for me. So this is a good film. It's well made. I can also see why it didn't stay with me and why I forgot about it. It's enjoyable. There's not a lot afterwards that stays with you. I watched this with my parents. We all enjoyed it. And we didn't have anything to say about it at the end. Everyone is good. Performances are good. They're strong. Good craftsmanship. Just doesn't have that X factor to make a film unforgettable. So I do think it's a fascinating example of a film where the reputation might be stronger than the experience. It's a really good 1970s thriller. It's not the best, though. It's not on the podium. It does capture a moment when audiences were starting to really question power and institutions. But it's a bit light. It's a bit like a light beer. And what stays with me most isn't the conspiracy. It's watching Redford transform from someone who studies danger into experiencing it. And the thing that I might remember is him getting a little bit down and dirty, which I like. I like to see him get pushed. So, yeah, it's not a masterpiece. And I don't quite understand the reputation that it had. There you go. that's 3 Days of the Condor from 1975. That's my thoughts and experiences with it over these years. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, thanks for listening, and see you next time.